Thanks to those joining me live and to those that'll be joining me on archive. D-Style Boxing here. This is the 92nd edition of the RoundTable. I'm being joined by Major Key Boxing. Follow him here on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel. We have Joe Habib for Ringside Reporter. Make sure you subscribe and tune in every Sunday with his co-host Eric Lorda. Shoe Shine Boxing. Catch a Shoe Shine every Monday night. Shout out to him and Joe Evo. Lee Groves, of course. He's over there working with CompuBox and the Ring, and you have a long list of people you work with. You know what I mean? But and you could shout that out when we go to. But and also a Boxing Wave here on YouTube. You guys know the name. Make sure you subscribe to his channel if you're not already. The one and the only Boxing Wave. Shout out to the chat from the Don, Karma Serene, Tu Matador, all you guys. Shout out. Let's go ahead and get this show started. So first, Vergil Ortiz, he's returning to the ring, right? He's fighting McKinson. Most people are expecting him to win. So I'm going to go around. Is there any possibility of an upset in your opinion? And if not, what is your quick, breakdown and prediction of the fight? Let's start with you, Major Key.
This one is a no-brainer to me. McKinson has no power, man. He's 22-0 with only 2 knockouts, bro. You know what I mean? And his competition is really not like, if you look at his record, is really no names that we can recognize. Some, I guess, formidable opponents because some of them were undefeated. But let's look at Vergil Ortiz's resume and the fact that he's 18-0 with 18 knockouts. I think this particular topic is a no-brainer for me.
Okay, all right. Joe Habib, any possibility of a knockout, and how do you think the fight plays out?
Major Key hit the nail on the head. He's not a big puncher. He's actually a southpaw version, in my opinion, like Paulie Malignaggi, if I'm being honest. He's an outboxer. He likes to probe from the outside. He's not a really volume type guy either. Vergil Ortiz would have to be really off his game. Something would have to be wrong with him physically for him to lose this fight, in my opinion. The thing I love about Vergil Ortiz is there's not really a lot of wasted motion in what he does. He's a very precise, accurate puncher. He knows how to cut off the ring. He knows how to anticipate where his opponent's going to be, and he's able to cut him off at the pass. It's hard for fighters to use their escape routes when they're trying to outmaneuver Vergil Ortiz because, like I said, he's so intuitive in that ring. And he's the type of guy also that he'll hit you, he'll tap you with those soft shots just to kind of create those openings, and then he just mixes in the big power shot. So everything is very purposeful with Vergil Ortiz, and I just think he's an all-around really, really good fighter. I'm looking for a knockout, probably in about 6 or 7 rounds here by Vergil Ortiz. I just don't think McKinson has what it takes to keep Vergil Ortiz off him in this fight. So I don't expect him to go the distance.
Absolutely. Lee Groves, go ahead and talk to us, brother. How do you see? Do you think there's an upset by any chance? And if not, how do you see this fight playing out? Oh, you're muted, brother.
Now a WBA title eliminator. So the winner of this fight will be in good position to fight for the championship next. McKinson he's a southpaw. He has a style that makes almost everybody look bad. I watched some of his recent fights, and even though he has 2 knockouts and 22 wins, he has scored early knockdowns. He has jolted opponents who were thinking, okay, this guy's a pillow puncher, and he catches them with something perfectly and they stagger a little bit. I don't expect to see that with Ortiz. It is interesting because Ortiz is coming off the illness that called off the March 19th fight. It's been almost a year since he's been in the ring. And McKinson's style, if he throws off Vergil Ortiz's timing and rhythm, something weird could happen. I don't see it happening. I agree with Beeb. I see a mid-range, a middle round TKO. He's a very accurate puncher. He's a very powerful puncher. He has shown that he can figure things out when things get tough. and I don't see the upset happening, but there could be a timing issue.
Okay. Well said. Well said. Hey, 408, go ahead and talk to us, brother. Who do you think? Do you see any type of upset? And if not, how do you see the fight playing out really quick?
You know what? If you saw him this week and how he responded to some of these media representatives, I think he's got a real axe to grind with the media, and he's going to take that out on McKinson this weekend. I think McKinson's in for a world of hurt. He's like you guys have mentioned, he's got the power of Paulie Malignaggi or less, and he struggled against Alex Martin, and he couldn't hurt a lightweight in Alex Martin. This is a real big, to me, step backwards in levels of competition. We've already seen him against a former world champion and Maurice Hooker, which was great. That's what I want to see. I want to see him take on former world champions. We saw him against Kavaliauskas, the mean machine, who can really punch. So I expect Vergil Ortiz to take care of this guy in 6 rounds or less, unless he's got some ring rust, which we might see.
Okay, all right. Wave, are you going to be the odd man out? Any possible?
Nah.
And if not, what round? What round, brother?
I got round 5. I just did a breakdown today.
Okay.
I agree with everybody. You know, the only thing is, I was watching the films on his the last fights. His chin is completely exposed. He's gonna walk right into something.
Man.
I think the first couple rounds should be pretty good for McKinson with that jab, that awkwardness. But I think as soon as Vergil get a good rhythm going, he's gonna catch him with a shot coming in. He likes to just McKinson. The problem is he likes to ambush sometimes, and when he does it, his chin is all the way in the air. I mean, people say this about Ryan Garcia. This guy is on a different level. He's going to get caught coming in.
Man, there you go. He's bird watching during the fight. That's for sure. Hey, Calix, I already know the answer, but give me a round. What a round.
I would agree. Early to mid. And I know Beeb was shocked when he saw it because I know he looks at the odds like I do. And D-Star, we talked about it yesterday. We expected the over-under to be set around 4.5, 5.5. It's 8.5. 8.5. I'm telling people jump all over the under and it's close to even odds. So I'm shocked to see it 8.5. I took the under. I jumped all over it. Maybe they're banking on Vergil coming out with some ring rust, but I see a guy who's pissed off. I see a guy who wants to make a statement. And I see a guy in McKinson who's ready to order for him. This is Pitbull versus Bait Dog. This is a guy with an 8% KO percentage versus a guy with 100% KO percentage who's actually fought better competition than the guy with the 8% KO percentage. So this is all wrong for McKinson, and I'm hoping Vergil Ortiz gets it done early. Eventually he'll get it done. But one last thing real quick. I know Beeb also saw this. This is like seeing a unicorn, what I'm seeing with the prop bets here. Rarely ever do you ever see a guy where the odds of him knocking out the guy is less than a draw. The draw is plus 2,500, and the odds of McKinson pulling off an upset by knockout is plus 3,000. You never see that. That's how little power this guy has.
It ain't gonna happen. Sorry.
No.
He's gonna go in 3. I think that's no more than 3. I just don't see him lasting more than 3 rounds against Vergil. Unless Virgil's going to carry him and put on some rounds or something, I just don't see it happening. Then again, McKinson can always fight a very negative fight, try not to win, just try to survive. That's possible. We'll see. We will see how it goes. I just think he will seek and he will destroy, which is very fitting because he did have a Metallica t-shirt today. Vergil, he gets cooler and cooler every fucking day. You know what I mean? But now with that said, speaking of Vergil, I'm going to start with you, Calix. He called out Ryan O'Hara. He singled him out, but he was talking about the media in general, saying, you guys are, and he said, especially you guys on Twitter. So YouTube, you're off the hook. You know what I mean? He singled out Twitter. He said, you're all on Twitter talking shit, making stories up about me that I was having trouble making weight, and that's why I got sick. That ain't true. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I actually didn't follow that whole thing closely when this happened. And I still don't know what Rabdo is. I just wasn't all that interested in it. Just wake me up when he fights, sort of thing. So I didn't follow the whole thing closely to tell, quite honestly, if the media was fair to him or not. I just observe a guy who is pissed off right now and wants to make a statement. I think is going to carry into this fight. But I really don't know if the media has been unfair to him. But my overall thoughts on this generally is I hope we continue to have journalists who ask fair questions and go after fighters, promoters, managers when they're not doing the correct things. I'm not sure if that was the case here or not. I just didn't follow it close enough.
Okay. Wave, I don't know if you caught it, but what did you make about Vergil Ortiz? His little, he kind of called out the media pretty much.
So I did see it. I didn't know when I saw it what this like the issue was exactly. Like I didn't know specifically what he said, that journalist, but I do remember people saying that he can't make weight, and I'm assuming that's what he was upset
Right.
about. I've seen a few things this week when it came to that, because I seen people getting on Vergil because, okay, so now he doesn't want to answer questions from certain journalists and stuff. So I seen people trying to attack him for that. Now we've seen that with other boxers, how they refuse to answer questions from certain media outlets and stuff like that, and certain journalists. I personally don't have a problem with that if they say it specifically towards the reporter that put out false information. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I think if some kind of media outlet or a journalist is saying stuff that's not true, I think that's completely fair to stop talking to them. But at the same time, I just don't like when boxers refuse to do interviews with media that ask the hard questions, you know? So I don't think there's anything that's wrong with what Vergil said. And I believe Khaled said the same thing. I think he's going to come out and really want to punish this dude because he's upset. Like his energy is way off this time. Like he really wants to beat the hell out of McKinson, and it has nothing to do with McKinson. It's what everybody else has been saying.
Man, poor McKinson. Lee Groves, what do you make of it, brother? What do you make of all the drama?
So, for the record, rhabdomyolysis is defined as a breakdown of muscle tissue that releases a damaging protein called myoglobin into the blood. And I think the thing that Vergil was really upset about was that the initial reports indicated that, they characterized it as him having trouble making weight, which kind of casts aspersions on his commitment, his devotion to boxing. And that's a character attack. And Vergil didn't like it at all. It was a disease and not the process of shedding weight that it was characterized as, and he was upset. And this was his opportunity to lash out at those who were spreading this initial inaccurate report. It's always been this way. There's an emphasis in journalism on being first, but also on being correct. And because there's so many websites out there, because Twitter is so immediate, there's more pressure to be the first instead of being first and correct. Because if you are first and correct, all subsequent stories about it, those reporters would be obligated to say, as reported by such and such on such and such.com. And that gives you clout as a reporter and as a journalist. And there are too many people that want to be first and not necessarily right. And that's probably what might have happened here. They might have even been given bad information. I know Ryan a little bit, and he's a very earnest guy. He volunteers for every assignment, and he works hard. So I don't know whether he was given bad information, but I don't think it was malicious. I don't know Ryan to be that kind of guy, but obviously he was given the brunt of Vergil's anger, and so it goes.
Makes sense.
D-Style, you're on mute, brother. If you're talking, you're on mute.
Oh, my bad. Okay, my bad. All right, yo. So Major Key, talk to us, brother. What did you make of it, man?
First and foremost, shout
Sure.
out to Lee Groves for that clarification, because I had no idea about any of that. You see, when I heard about this, I was thinking maybe, because of the trainer situation in the past, people talk, jumping to conclusions, maybe to, the fact that people were talking about comparing him to Berlanga, like a hype job, and with all his knockouts, this and that. I was thinking maybe that's what, because I have a Twitter account, but I actually don't follow Twitter at all. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know what he was talking about, but what he's saying makes sense, because there's a lot of just assuming, and you know what they say about assuming, right? But there's a lot of assuming, and this guy's a young talent out here, like really putting his life on the line, really like giving us entertainment, pure entertainment. He obviously loves the sport. So the fact that he gets a little upset because people are just talking shit about him, let's be honest, then yeah, I mean, he's young, he's got the right to be upset about that. And I think that he handled it the right way by just saying, hey, you were talking shit about me, I got you on the spot. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to answer your questions. That's that. So maybe, like Lee said, maybe it wasn't, ill intent in the background, but he obviously is affected by it to the point where he had to vocalize it in that social setting where people were asking him questions, right? So obviously it's bothering him. He wanted to clarify that, and kudos to him for actually saying it instead of holding it in.
Hey, there you go. Joe Habib, what's your opinion of the whole thing? I know you just found out yesterday about it. What do you make of it?
Well, I remember when Eric and I were first talking about this, and we were just pretty much just saying, this was a rare disease. We actually did the research on it. It's a very rare disease. And, as Lee said, it comes from substances being released from the muscles. But the way this disease occurs is the muscle has to be damaged somehow, and then it releases the substance through damage. So what people in the media, I got the sense, were implying was that this condition was brought on because of hard training, and he was dehydrating himself. And that's not how this condition is brought on. It's just a very rare condition. He could have got hit somewhere and something, could have been injured, something like that. This could have happened from an injury. So Eric and I, when we were talking about this, like we said, Vergil Ortiz has always made weight. He's a hard worker, and I think Lee put it perfectly. Like the implication that he's having problems making weight, like he's not doing the work to make the weight or whatever. He's irresponsible in making the weight, so that's why this condition was brought about. I just don't think enough research was done by a lot of the reporters who were reporting this, right? And that's where Vergil Ortiz, I think, got upset, right? Because one thing really doesn't have anything to do with the other, right? This was just unfortunate for him, right? That this happened to him. It was just happenstance, basically, and that's what happened. It had nothing to do with him not being able to make weight, him dehydrating himself, him being irresponsible, him having to cut too much pounds in the camp. So again, when we talked yesterday, I've said this several times. A lot of people, they want to be fast and loose, and Lee said it as well. And I said it to you yesterday. Everyone wants to be first, and sometimes when you want to be first, you tend to skim through things, right? And you don't get all the facts. So, like I said, when Eric and I were talking about this, we were just very careful about it. We kind of did the research on it, and we just said, hey, this is just kind of a unfortunate occurrence that happened to Vergil Ortiz, and that was that. So
there you go. Hey, Shoeshine, real quick, brother. What are your thoughts on him going off on Ryan O'Hara? Do you think he was justified in doing so?
Yeah, on one hand, I applaud him for confronting people that he feel may have wronged him, even if they're in the media. But on another hand, I feel like it's kind of dangerous territory when I see him responding to not only people on Twitter, but even women on Twitter that they're not necessarily media, but they just might have a large social media following. And when he's going after people like that, it tells me that, you know, in the future, when he's going on a championship run or getting closer to those championship title fight opportunities, that he needs to be spending less time on social media. Because, you know, ultimately, now that he has some fame, this kind of attention he's spending on social media could bring upon some mental health issues. I mean, if you're bothered by what people are saying on you on the internet prior to a fight, it could absolutely potentially not lead to your best performance in the ring. So I would, if I was in his shoes, I'd stay away from social media leading up to the fights.
Man. All right. Okay. Well, look, I've had Ryan O'Hara on my channel before. He seems like a nice guy. A lot of people don't like him for some reason. I don't have the same experiences they have or the same perception, I guess, but everyone is different, I guess. But I'm okay with Vergil saying what he said to him, if that's how he felt, right? And I believe O'Hara was like a good sport about it in the end. But I think a lot of people took this opportunity and liberty to gang up on him and clown him, and I just feel like, look, either you're for I'm for Vergil speaking his mind and all that. Either you're for that, or you're just doing it because he did it to somebody you don't like, right? Like I question some people on social media and Twitter if that's why they did it. You know what I mean? I think we lost Lee because there was a thunderstorm out there. I don't know if you heard the thunder rolling, but it was rolling over there. But yeah, I was about to jam out to the Garth Brooks song and everything. All right, but thunder rolls, you know.
He said it before we went live. That
yeah.
Those issues, yeah.
Well, hopefully we get him back on. If not, at least we got that information from him. So shout out to him. Yo, Regis Prograis, it's being said, the WBC announced. Yo, since Jose Ramirez, if you guys want to add anything about that, you can go ahead. Like that's up to you. But Jose Ramirez said he's like, yo, I'm getting married or something. Whatever. So Regis gets it. He should have already been in the mix, but now he's in the mix against Jose Zepeda. I believe it's a great fight. Late August, if it happens. Boxing Wave, to start with you. What do you think of that potential matchup, and who do you think wins?
I love this fight, man. I've been wanting to see him against Zepeda or Ramirez too. Ramirez, I've been wanting to see that for a long time since they were both on Top Rank. I love Regis Prograis, man. I'm a big fan of him, and I think he's gonna win the fight. But you know, I saw his recent rant about not being a mandatory or something for one of these belts, and you know, at the same time, as much as I think he's worthy to fight for a title, after he fought and lost to Josh Taylor. When he lost to Josh Taylor, you know, those couple of fights he had after that weren't really, you know, the really good opposition. You know, I think he was bouncing around. He had a fight on PPC where he knocked the guy out really quickly. Then he had a Triller fight against Red Catch. And I was like, man, like he's not really, I don't know what's going on, but he's not young. You know, it's not like he's young. He's already in his mid-30s. And, you know, I just wanted him to get an opportunity, and I think this is gonna be his opportunity. And Jose Zepeda, I was actually worried about him too because he had that fight with the Baranchik fight was crazy. That was a great fight. Everybody loved that fight. I showed my family that fight. Like that fight was wild. The Hank Lundy fight, he looked terrible in, and at that point, I said, I don't know if he's the same. He might be past it. And then I think his most recent fight or two, I was like, okay, I think he looks good, and I'm ready for this fight. So I'm looking forward to it. But I got Regis Prograis winning this one.
Mute again.
All right.
Mute.
Yeah, I got you. Hey, but so check this out. Joe Habib, same question here. Well, what do you think of the fight? And I know you want to say something about the wedding. You know what I mean? So if you want to go on record with it, it's up to you. But go ahead.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but if I was Ramirez, I would have rescheduled the wedding. I mean, you don't get a title shot. You don't get a title shot, you know, opportunity like every day. I mean,
you're going to get in trouble for that.
I'm probably going to get in trouble. So I'm prepared to get slammed. So any negative emails, I welcome them, whatever. But I'm with Wave. I'm a huge Regis Prograis fan. I was extremely impressed in the Josh Taylor fight. And what impressed me is I always knew Regis Prograis was a very slick, crafty fighter, right? But he actually held his own in the pocket with Josh Taylor, and he was stunning him, and he was hurting him inside, right? So he can punch a bit. He's a very versatile guy, right? He's a good counter puncher. He can move. He can, like I said, he can hold his own on the inside when he wants to. Problem with Zepeda is he's been in some tough fights. He's taken some punishment. Prograis is a much better defensive fighter than Zepeda. And here's the problem. Zepeda is a very aggressive guy. He's a very heavy-handed guy. But Prograis can pop too. So, if Prograis is in that pocket, he knows how to make himself that compact target. He knows how to change levels. He's hard to hit up close, right? So if he gets deep in that pocket with Zepeda and he outmaneuvers him on the inside, makes him miss, I think Prograis is going to stop Zepeda. I think he's going to stop him. And it's going to be a great fight while it lasts. I know Zepeda is going to bring it. He fights with his heart on his sleeve, right? He earns his money, and he's a pleasure to watch too. Don't get me wrong, but I just think Prograis is just going to be too slick for him. And not only that, as I said, it's double trouble when you're slick and you can pop too, right? So I'm going to go with Prograis. I think he's going to get him out of there in about maybe 9 rounds. But it's a great fight.
All right. Well, we get Lee Gross back on here. Glad to have him back on. Major Key, talk to us. What you make of the favorite in this fight?
I'm going to agree. As far as the power, we can't forget that Prograis is 27-1 with 23 knockouts. You know what I'm saying? So the fact of the matter is he does have power. His only loss is, majority decision loss to Taylor. And that was a very close fight. Me personally, I feel like Taylor kind of made his name there, right, by becoming undisputed. But besides him, you got to put Prograis as the next best in that division. He's getting older and all that. But he's had, since that loss, he's had 3 knockouts, right? And when you're comparing to Jose Zepeda, getting dropped so many times against Baranchik, and the fact that he got knocked out by Terry Flanagan, whereas Prograis beat him by unanimous decision, right? And I don't believe in a triangle theory. Just trying to give you insight to the fact that, hey, you can compare some of those things, right? And I just feel like Jose Zepeda is a very tough competitor. It's going to be interesting until either Prograis either just starts dominating with the boxing, or he catches him with something. So the fact that he's 27-1 with 23 KOs leads me to believe that he may be able to knock out Zepeda, and if he does, probably around 7-8. Okay, so a little earlier than what Beeb has it, but maybe 7-8, just because he's such a slick boxer and he knows how to set up his punches. So that's my prediction.
All right, but I just want to clarify: it is his wedding, right? It's not like his brother's wedding or some shit, or like the cuñado's wedding, or like it's his wedding. I just want to make sure.
I'm not going to comment on that. I purposely skipped that one.
Hey, Shoeshine, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. I had the pleasure actually meeting his family, Jose Ramirez's family, at the Josh Taylor fight at the press conferences. In the ring with Christine was there. His family was beautiful. I was surprised to hear he wasn't married, which is he's absolutely doing the right thing. But it also is like, did he not want to fight a rematch against Zepeda? Did he not find interest in that? But hey, this affords an opportunity who rightfully deserves a first place mandatory opportunity, and that's Regis Prograis. And this fight is more, to me, I'm much more interested. Like most of you guys have said, this fight's going to be electrifying between Zepeda and Regis Prograis. If this fight was 2 years ago, prior to the pandemic, where Zepeda has been dropped countless of times and was in fight of the year against Baranchik, I would favor Zepeda. But no, Regis Prograis he's barely shop worn. He's always in shape. He's continuously training, and it favors him. I think he's going to come out victorious and finally earn himself that 140-pound championship he deserves. I have Regis Prograis, like some of you guys, a late stoppage, and that's just because Zepeda's punch resistance is quickly going away.
Man, what's going? Okay, all right. Yo, and by the way, I mean, why didn't he give his girl like the Rocky speech? You know, I'm a fighter. That's what you married. You know, they're not married yet, but
Dave, would you have rescheduled your wedding, Dave, if you were in his situation? I'm putting you on the spot right now.
Oh yeah, my wife would absolutely put my career first.
Ooh, he's throwing shots at Ramirez.
Oh, I said it's beautiful. I said, hey, if you listen, I think there's some ulterior motives. Clearly, the guy's a celebrity, a boxing celebrity. He can get married anywhere, anytime he wants, but maybe he doesn't want to fight Zepeda. Maybe he's more interested in fighting.
I had to ask Dave that question. I had to ask Dave because he's the ultimate fan.
Yo, and if anybody saw the fight, they
says
fought before, and some people feel Zepeda won that fight.
I was about to ask y'all that. Who do y'all think won that first fight, bro?
That's what happened.
It was a questionable decision, as the Josh Taylor versus Regis Prograis. Either way, we're going to get the fights we want, and hopefully we will see Jose Ramirez get a shot at Regis Prograis.
Now, Calix, he always says this, so I'm going to say it for him this time. Anytime he talks about Regis Prograis, he just loves to tell people he's from New Orleans. Right? So I just want to, and then he's wearing the New Orleans hat. You know what I mean? So I get it. But Calix, I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to pretend I don't. Who do you favor in this? Well, first of all, what do you think about Ramirez? I mean, are you in favor of him skipping the fight for the wedding?
Oh, of course. I'm not going with Beeb on this one.
Oh my God, Cal.
I'm not going with Shoeshine on this one.
I'm surprised.
Stick with the wedding, man. Stick with the wedding.
All right. And what do you think of the fight? 'Cause, hey, at the end of the day, it's a big up. Regis Prograis deserves this at the end of the day, so it is what it is.
In fairness to Ramirez, just to let people know what's going on with this, he's getting married. That's been locked in for a while, and apparently, this fight that was supposed to happen between Ramirez and Zepeda got pushed back due to negotiations with a lot of fights are in limbo right now due to Crawford and Spence. Everybody's waiting to see where that fight falls, the negotiation. So apparently that's why this fight got held up too. But anyway, we are where we are. I love the fact that fell through. I love the fact that we're getting Prograis versus Zepeda. And I would echo what everybody's saying, but as my guy Nando says, everybody knows Nando in the chat, who's usually in the chat, Zepeda fights up and down to his competition. You got to remember that. He's going to fight up for Prograis. This is going to be a better Zepeda than we've seen in the past few fights. He's going to fight up for Prograis. He wants to win that fight. He wants to get that belt. He wants to move on to Ramirez as well, the rematch. So he's going to get the best Zepeda on that night. So he better show up because, as Wave said, it hasn't been popping for Prograis. It hasn't been popping. I mean, he hasn't been getting the fights that we would expect from Prograis. And we do the days of futures past on this D-style. Like, what would have happened had this guy got a decision and that guy got a decision? Just think of where Prograis would be had he gotten the decision in the Josh Taylor fight. And I'm not saying that was a controversial decision. It wasn't. But had he gotten a decision there, all of a sudden he gets the undisputed shot. And I actually think he matches up better with Ramirez than Zepeda. Some people may disagree with me, but I think he becomes undisputed. He becomes pound for pound top 10. And then he comes back to New Orleans for the first time in a while to fight as undisputed and as a pound for pound top 10 guy. But instead, he's fighting in the middle of the desert, in the Middle East. He's fighting here and there. He hasn't been getting the shots. This is his way. This is his opportunity to get his career back on track. And he needs to, because as Wave said, 33 years old. He's 33. Like, people just think of him like he's some sort of guy in his prime in his 20s. He's not. He's been around 10 years plus, 33 years old. He's got to get it going. And it's frustrating being a boxing fan in New Orleans, and people don't really know him, to be honest. You don't really know him down here. As sad as that is to say, people don't really know him. So he's got to get it going. He doesn't have much time.
Yeah, for sure. It's UFC country over there, pretty much. But Lee Groves, talk to us. What you make of the replacement? Who do you favor?
Well, first of all, as far as the wedding is concerned, happy wife, happy life. Get married, and he's got the winner of Prograis and Zepeda in his pocket. He's going to fight for the championship down the line. So now he's got time to enjoy life, get married, go on a honeymoon, get prepared. He'll know who he's going to be fighting months in advance. I think it all works out very well for Jose Ramirez. And it also works out brilliantly for Regis Prograis, because up until a couple of weeks ago, he was the man on the outside looking in. He was highly rated, but he was out of the picture. You got Akhmedov and Puello fighting for the vacant WBA title. You had Ramirez and Zepeda fighting for the vacant WBC title. And Prograis, whose only loss was to Josh Taylor, and I had Prograis winning that fight 7-5. He was being shut out, and he was fighting in Saudi Arabia. He was fighting Tyrone McKenna in Dubai. Another southpaw, looked good. He's knocked out 3 straight opponents. He's looked good every time. As far as Zepeda is concerned, yes. We've had Regis Prograis on our show. I'm on with James Smitty Smith in this corner of the podcast on Fight TV. And Regis has been on with us 3 times. And the last time that he was on, he said that he has felt like a guy who's been climbing out of a pit. And once he gets that world title shot, he is going to be an absolute beast. And I believe him. He's skillful. He's powerful. He's accurate. He's got great work rate. And Zepeda is kind of hot and cold. Sometimes he's a boxer. Sometimes he's a slugger. He has chin problems. Regis Prograis does not have chin problems. I see Regis Prograis as a better all-around fighter. I think that it will be an explosive fight. I think it'll be a fan-friendly fight. But I see Regis Prograis becoming world champion again. And from a guy who a couple of weeks ago had no big fights on the horizon, I see him having 2. Zepeda, then Ramirez, and I see him winning both.
Shout out to Ringside Reporter, by the way. He says, I still think Ramirez could have got the deposit back from the hall. Look, if he's getting a shot, he's getting a shot anyway, right? Against the winner. So I think he's all right. You know what I mean?
Non-refundable.
I think he'll rather
I hope he gets the winner.
he'll rather fight the winner than deal with his wife. I think that's fair to say.
Wife may want to go on a 6-month honeymoon. He won't be able to fight the winner.
Come on.
But look, Lee is correct here. He's got the winner in his pocket. Lay up, get married, go on a honeymoon, let them beat each other up and fight the winner.
There you go. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, say whatever you want. People been counting Zepeda out. I'm not going to count him out this time. I do think Prograis has been he hasn't really been facing high opposition. Zepeda has. I got Zepeda winning this fight by decision. Controversial decision, but I think he pulls it off. I do. That's just what I think. You know what I mean? But plus, Prograis looking a little pudgy there, Calix. I don't know. He ain't looking in the best shape lately. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
He's going to be locked and loaded.
You know, we will see, but we will talk about that the closer, obviously, that we get to the fight. Let's talk about another fight that was announced. I think it's a significant fight, a crossroads fight, really, for Parker. But he's going to be facing Joyce, former world champion Parker. Joyce on the come up. I think it's a great announcement. I can't wait for this fight. I'm excited about this fight. Okay, and I'm going to say it right now. I do think Joyce wins this fight. It's for the record. That's why I got winning. But let's see what the panel thinks. Boxing Wave, what you make of the announcement? Who do you got winning this fight, brother?
I love the fight. I saw the press conference today. You know, it was kind of awkward because like Joyce was trying to like press the the trash talk, and he's not a good trash talker. And Joseph Parker is just not a trash talker at all. And then you had the whole squabble between the promoters, and it was just real awkward, man. But I love the fight. I was trying to think of it I was thinking about it today and trying to figure out how it would go. I think I'm a big fan of Joseph Parker, and I think the I think the one issue I have with him is that he lacks the killer instinct. I know early on in his career when he was a prospect running up, wins like, like when Joshua and Dillian White was just racking up wins, he was getting some KOs. But once he like leveled up, there was just certain fights, even not the top tier fighters, but I think this Chisora fight, the rematch, should have got a knockout. Dillian White, he should have pressed it earlier instead of waiting until the last round. There are certain fights that I think he was very capable of winning that he just, took his foot off the gas. But I think he is one of the more skilled boxers. He has respectable power. He has a good chin. I would like for him to win. But for now, I am leaning towards Joyce because, he just seems to just be unstoppable right now. I think he is beatable. I think someone with the right kind of power, I think Joyce is just below those, top 3 or 4 guys, Usyk, Wilder, Joshua, and Fury. And then when it comes to everybody else, I think Joyce is capable of beating the rest of them. I think Joseph Parker is right below those top 4 too. But Parker gotta really want to hurt him to win. He has to want to hurt him, and even if he tries, it still may not be enough. I'm leaning towards Joyce, but that's not gonna be my final pick.
Okay. All right. Hey, Major Key, what you make of this fight, and who do you favor in this fight, brother?
I actually favor. I think that this is a very interesting fight, but to me, it's going to be a very, very boring fight, to be honest with you. And I think that at the end, I'm going to say that my prediction, just to throw it out there first, I'm going to have, just because it's so intriguing to me, because of the fact that Joe Joyce is who he is right now, and very exciting. Even Daniel Dubois was kind of his biggest win, and I was never very high on Daniel Dubois. When it comes down to it, Joseph Parker has actually been in there with top level competition, and at the end of the day, he does whatever he needs to do to box his way to a victory, unless it's Dillian White and AJ. So I'm gonna predict, these are one of those odd ones where I'm gonna predict a split decision where Joseph Parker wins. Okay. And it's very rare that I even go to, to a split decision, but I think it's going to be one of those things where they're going to be siding with Joe Joyce. They're going to be siding with Joseph Parker because he's a name. So Joseph is probably going to show a little bit more because he's a better boxer. But at the end of the day, just for the future of boxing, they're probably going to want to side with Joe Joyce, and it's going to be a split decision. That's what I think. But Joseph Parker to me is very, very skilled, but he always looks a little scared when somebody starts rushing him. He looks a little scared, like he just wants to survive. And I don't know that Joe Joyce is really going to put that type of pressure on him. The reason Chisora even lasted was because he just stood against the corner, and waited for Joseph Parker to come in and just started throwing haymakers. But he was getting hurt. He was getting hurt. But he was kind of reserving his energy, standing against the corner, saying, "Come in, come in, come in." So Joseph was like, a little hesitant, I'm not trying to get knocked out neither, So tap, 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 trying to come in. So I think that at the end of the day, it's going to be overall a boring fight, and it's going to be a majority decision for Joseph Parker, in my opinion.
You might be right. That was a really good breakdown there. Hey, Joe Habib. One is known for his fast hands. One is known for being really slow. But who do you got?
I seen you hit that man like no man has ever been hit before, and he kept coming after you. We don't need that guy in our life, baby. That's Joe Joyce in a nutshell. That's Joe Joyce in a nutshell. You can't stop this guy. This guy is truly the juggernaut, like the comic book character, the juggernaut. Once he gets that forward momentum, he can't be stopped, right? And like Wave said, Joseph Parker is a little bit inconsistent. Like, he's up and down in the fight. Sometimes he gets complacent in there. Sometimes the killer instinct isn't there. Guess what? The killer instinct is always there for Joe Joyce because he just keeps coming. He's got that hammer fist jab. It's very unorthodox. If you block a Joe Joyce shot, you're going to get hurt. That's how heavy-handed this guy is. He's got lunch boxes for fists. He's got lunch boxes for fists. This guy is scary. This may be the first time Joseph Parker gets stopped. I'm going with the juggernaut here. Joe Joyce.
Wow. Okay. All right. Lee Groves, what you make of this announcement, and who do you favor?
I really love that this fight is taking place because in this era where the champions fight 2 times a year at most, you want to keep the division going. You don't want to have too many guys sitting on the sidelines waiting for the big guys to take care of their business. So you got the number 1 and number 2 in the WBO. They're number 2 and number 3 in the WBC. They're 2 highly ranked guys risking it. They're putting their standings at risk. And we want to see more fighters do that. So as far as the announcement is concerned, I couldn't be happier about hearing it. As far as the fight is concerned, Joe Joyce is called the Juggernaut for a reason. He's 6'6". He looks well conditioned at 265 pounds. He's a volume punching big man. People have made the comparison to a young George Foreman because he's raw and he throws tons and tons of punches and he has heavy hands. That's true. But Joe Joyce is 36. He's not young. And there's a sense of urgency about the fight for him for that reason. As far as Joe Joyce is concerned, this is a big step up in terms of quality of competition, and that's because he's a former WBO champion. He has good all-around skills. He doesn't do any one thing outstanding, but he does a lot of things very, very well. But that said, one red flag for me concerning him is that Parker's chin is a bit dodgy. Chisora floored him in the first round of their first fight, and Dillian White scored a couple of knockdowns against him. And if Joe gets into his rhythm, and if one of those clubbing punches hurts him, that's all she wrote. He will pound Joyce into submission because that's what Joe Joyce does. As far as Joyce, the red flags for me are his age, and Parker has fought the much better competition. And Joyce gets hit a lot. He gets hit with a lot of clean punches, but he has a good chin. He's very hard to hurt. I see Joe Joyce trying to box him, drill holes through his defense with his quicker hands and his sharper punches. And he's younger. He's more experienced. But there's something about trying to hold off an avalanche. And that's what Joe Joyce is. He's an avalanche. And over time, the stress of keeping a bigger, stronger guy who throws punches at you from all angles and they all hurt. And because of that chin, I haven't run the numbers yet, but my gradually shrinking gut tells me that Joe Joyce is going to be the winner.
Joe Joyce has Molnier in both hands. That's why he's going to win this fight. This guy's got monster hands. Calix, who do you think is going to win this fight? Who do you like here?
The thing about Joyce is they have to move quicker with him because this guy didn't turn pro till he was 31, 36 years old. A lot of people think he's younger since he's fresh to the scene, but he's 36 years old, 36. So he's got to get it going. So I'm glad that this fight is happening when it's happening. I hope Joe Joyce wins the fight as a boxing fan because I think Joe Joyce is great for the division. There is no greater nickname for this guy than the Juggernaut. You brought it up. Like the first time I saw him fight, I was like, this guy can't be this slow. Like he cannot be this slow. It reminded me sort of like what I felt about Angulo, but even though Alfredo Angulo was slow, he was getting work done because of the damage he was doing with his punches. And Joe Joyce seems to have a chin. He's big. He continues to walk you down. It's like watching a zombie movie. Like you can hit him with whatever. He's just going to keep coming. And that's Joe Joyce. And it doesn't look special. It doesn't look great at times, but it's effective. Like he's getting hit with shots, but the work is getting done. You see it getting done. You see how the story is going to go. He may be losing a round. He may be catching punches, but he's working downhill. And as each round goes on, you see his opponent like, damn, this dude's big. He's big. He's hit me with some big shots. And I think the same thing's going to happen here. Joseph Parker is going to look great early in the fight, but as the fight goes on and Joyce is getting that work done, the avalanche is coming downhill. There's only so much you can do. But I hope Joyce wins this fight. I hope we continue to move on with this career, and because he's great for the division, I believe. He's fun to watch.
Dave, who wins?
Man, Joe Joyce is he's strong, he's slow, he's unstoppable. Really, I think what's so interesting about Joe Joyce is I've become a fan of him, watching him work, like you guys have said, because it's so deceptive. Everything is so deceptive. You know, he's so slow, but he causes and inflicts so much pain on his opponents. What he did to Dubois was really impressive. That being said, with Joseph Parker, a former world champion, I'm elated to see these two guys go at it. This is what the heavyweight division needs while we're waiting for these big matchups. And so I congratulate both of those guys for fighting each other. That being said, like Beeb, I agree with you 100%. I see a late stoppage for Joe Joyce because Parker's going to just leave himself susceptible. He's going to have to throw so many punches early on that he's going to get countered. And his chin's betrayed him. So halfway through the fight, I see Parker already being dropped at least once, leading to either a late stoppage or a decision win for Joe Joyce.
Yeah, one final note on this fight is the thing is, I think Parker's very uncomfortable with a fast pace. And I think Joe Joyce, even though he's not the quickest guy in the world, he just throws so many punches. And I think the volume is going to be a problem for Parker. It's going to make him very, very uncomfortable. More news here is Abner Mares has announced that he's going to return to the ring and go out on his own terms. What do you guys think of this news here? Go ahead, D-Style.
Well, I'll go first for that. I apologize. I don't know what happened with the internet here, but I think Lee Groves' thunderstorm hit over here. But with that said, glad I'm back. As far as the Mars situation, I have to be honest. It's been 2 eyes that have been damaged. I get his whole, look, I need to go out on my own terms. Look, I don't mind him. I kind of feel the same way about him like I do about Jose Benavidez. Like, if you want to keep fighting at a certain level, I don't have a problem with it. But I honestly feel Abner Mares is going to get seriously hurt if he gets in there with some serious competition. And while he's free to do what he wants, I have to express that I don't like his chances against the top opposition. And he's going to get himself very hurt. If by his own terms he means, let me go in there, fight some B-level opposition or something, get some W's, and then, hey, I'll announce my retirement because I want to retire. Okay, cool. But something tells me he wants more than that. So that's how I feel about it. Go ahead, Lee.
Mares was forced to stay away from the ring for the last 4 years because of detached retinas, which explains why he's been wearing sunglasses when he does the fights on Showtime. He had his first detachment in 2008, and then he had, I think it was in the left eye, and then the other eye, the detached retina, happened in 2019. And he was supposed to fight Gervonta Davis at that time, and that fight had to be canceled, or at least Mares was removed from that fight because of that. But Mares has reportedly gotten clearance from doctors. He's gotten a unanimous vote from the California State Athletic Commission, so he's gone through the proper hoops to regain the right to fight. I understand why he's doing this. After losing the rematch to Santa Cruz, he didn't get to retire on his own terms, and he didn't want to go out a loser. I mean, going out a loser, that's a very excruciating thing for anybody, much less a guy who is proud like Abner Mares is, a guy who's a 3-division world champion like Maurice is. And he feels strongly that he needs to close this chapter of his life, and he wants to do it as a winner, and he wants to do it his way. He says he's been going to the gym a few times a week, and he's fighting a guy in Miguel Flores who went the distance with Santa Cruz. He lost widely, but he went the distance with Leo. And Flores was also stopped in 5 by Eduardo Ramirez in 2020. He's going to be coming off his own 15-month layoff. So these are 2 guys that are going to be having to shed a lot of rust. It should be a nice test for Mares to figure out where he is as a fighter. And he said that if he looks terrible, he will retire. He had to talk his family into it. He had to talk other people around him into it. He went through the hoops. He got his license. He got a date. And let's see if he lives up to his word. You know, he's up there in age. He's got a lot of rust to get off. If he looks bad, let's see if he does pull the trigger and say, "Hey, that's it. I know what I know. I don't have it anymore. I'm going to settle into my nice life as a broadcaster and enjoy my life after boxing." So I see why he's doing it. We'll see how it goes, but as long as he got the clearance, why not watch him fight? I just hope he doesn't get hurt.
I agree with you, B. But what are your thoughts on it, brother?
You know, I like Abner Mares a lot, and kind of going back and forth with this because, I mean, he's 36 years old. He walked away for a reason, and whenever you walk away because of, you know, your health and because of injuries, and then you take the time off, it's not like your body's going to get better. You'll be rested, but you're not going to be rejuvenated. You know, you don't get better with age. So when you walked away the first time because of you felt that you weren't the same physically, right? Taking that time off, sometimes fighters think, oh, well, maybe it wasn't just, you know, the wear and tear and the long career and just some of these fights that just took it out of me. Maybe it was just me. Maybe I didn't do something right throughout that process. And then they take the time off and they start saying, oh, well, what if I did this? What if I did that? And quite possibly, you know, I'm not Abner Mares. I don't know what's going on inside his body, but quite possibly it's almost like you try to rationalize things that maybe don't need to be rationalized. Father time takes, you know, gets us all, right? So I don't know. I'm a little concerned about this decision, if I'm being honest. But after having the 2 detached retinas, and as Lee said, you're wearing sunglasses, I don't know. I mean, I just don't see him coming back and being better than he was when he left. Gotcha. And if you're not, then that's going to be a problem, in my opinion.
A boxing wave. Mares says he wants to go out on his own terms. How do you interpret that, and what do you feel about him coming back?
Well, from what I was told, of what I read, that he is going to be fighting at Super Feather, which is 130. Which is when I first heard the news, I was worried about what weight he would come in. I think I spoke on this on a video I did the other day, and I said, all right, if he's coming back at lightweight, that's not good because he's not a big guy, and I don't want to see him coming back as some blown up lightweight, you know. So 130 is cool. You know, we know him at his best at 126, going away for 4 years, being 36 years old. I was pretty sure there's no way he can make 126, especially on his first fight back. So I feel him from wanting to come back. I actually like the person he's fighting because it tells a story. Like it gives us some sort of perspective on it's a solid enough opponent to where, like, if he can't win the fight, we know that he's done. But if he does win the fight, it's not like he's fighting some bum. He's fighting a solid opponent. And I think that if he can win this fight, and I hope he does, that he can stick around and maybe not jump into a good fight, like a top fight, but maybe another fight after. And then maybe we could talk about something real, you know? Now, as far as seeing a Leo Santa Cruz 3, because I think this is where it's going to lead to be honest. I really don't see any top 126 guy fighting him and anybody from 135. I don't know who's at 130 that I can see him really realistically facing. I can't see him facing Stevenson or Cordina or any of these guys. I think the top, what's the other champion name? Gutierrez. I can see that fight, but that's only if the other two doesn't get to him first and unify. So I honestly believe Leo hasn't looked that great against Miguel, in his last couple of fights. If Maurice looks good in this next fight or two, I honestly see them fighting for a third time, and that's just about it. That's all I'm really expecting. All right.
Major Key, are expecting a Cinderella comeback or tragic story or in between? What are you expecting here?
So this one I'm going to talk a little bit more about because I'm intrigued by this one for a couple of reasons. But I'm going to preface it by saying this. If you're wearing dark shades because you have a detached retina, then first and foremost, it's not going to help where you're in front of the bright lights of a main event and getting punched in the head. That doesn't help, right? Nevertheless, I know the matchmaking here made it intriguing for me, and why is because, like everyone else has said, it's a solid opponent. His losses, he lost a unanimous decision against Leo Santa Cruz. So did Abner Mares in his last fight. But Abner Mares was June of 2018. This guy lost by knockout earlier this year against. I had to write his name down. Hold on 1 second. What was this guy's name? Diol Ogwin. Have you guys ever heard Diol Ogwin with 15-17 record? So this was his split decision. I'm sorry, he won. I said he lost. I'm sorry. He won a split decision, right, against Diol Ogwin, 15-17.
I got a cousin named Diol.
Yeah, Leo is actually the only person that didn't knock him out out of all the people that beat Florida.
Man.
Right, exactly. I had to write that down because, Leo Santa Cruz, beat him by unanimous decision. But everybody, Chris Avalos, Eduardo Ramirez, and that Nguyen beat him by KO. So what I'm trying to say is that he was knocked out by all these dudes, right? That really, besides Chris Avalos, everybody else really didn't have Eduardo Ramirez did too, yeah. But that Nguyen, I didn't really know about that guy, and I certainly never heard of Diol Ogwin. So I had to write that down for my information because I really am baffled at that. But however, he does have a solid career, right? So it makes it an intriguing fight for me because I don't know if Flores is going to be able to pull off an upset based on Abner Maris's long layoff. You know what I mean? And the fact that he's got that whole retina issue where he has to put on glasses, which means that with the bright lights and getting hit in the head, in the face, in the eye, that doesnn't help, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Does it come to a ref stopping it? I don't know. So that's why it's an intriguing fight. At this point, I really don't know which way to go with it. I think it's an intriguing matchup. So that's why I had to elaborate on why I think it's an intriguing matchup. For a comeback after 4 years, at least if he loses, he probably doesn't lose by knockout. I think that was the safest bet in why they chose this particular opponent. Because he's only got 12 KOs, by the way, out of his 25 fights. So just wanted to mention that as well.
Before I go to Calix, I was saying last week a one-legged man has never won a competition at anything. A blind man definitely hasn't won a competition at anything either. So I just want to go ahead and shout that out. But Calix, is this going to be a Cinderella story? A tragic story? or something in between? What do you think?
I don't know what it's going to be, but I'll tell you, Miguel Flores was picked for a reason. He's lost 4 out of his last 7. He's heavily trending down. Won a decision against a fighter with a losing record in his last fight, and he doesn't have much punching power. So maybe he'll offer some resistance, but if Abner Mares can't win this comfortably, or if he loses like Mikey Garcia in his last fight, you need to say, it's time to wrap it up. But as Wave said, and I did the same exact thing when I found out that Abner Mares was coming back. What weight is this fight going to be at? And I thought about this for a different reason. And I said, they better not be trying to do this. And I alluded to it on Twitter earlier. When I heard Abner Mares is coming back, I immediately thought a possible Tank Davis opponent. And as sad as it is to even think that, that's where we're at right now. Like, I'm serious about this. Like, I said he better not be coming back at 135. And now it's at 130. Like, that's closer to 135 than 126. I'm just saying. So I think Miguel Flores was picked for him to look great against. And if he looks great, I'm telling you, he's going to be on that short list for the Tank Davis fight. I know people are going to laugh at that. I know people may say you're crazy. I'm just saying, like, Abner Mares.
I don't think Tank would go that low. I don't.
Dude, I don't know. Like, Abner Mares.
I don't think he would.
I'm just telling you, D-Style.
Can't put it past Mayweather promotion.
Don't do it. Don't put it past him, D-Style. Look, D-Style. He wanted to fight in 2019. It couldn't happen. I think Abner Mares wants the fight if he looks good. I think Abner Mares is going to politic for the fight if he looks good. And I would not put it past taking his team to say, look, I understand, but that would be like, I would be disgusted. Like, that would make me physically sick if they make that fight, because his eyes would be done. Like, dude, like, I'm not even joking about this. His eyes would be done if he goes in there with Tank. It would be vicious. That would be bad. They cannot do that. And the reason I'm pleading, please don't do that. Like, please don't do that, is it's bad. It's bad. And I think it's a possibility. I'm telling you, y'all laughing. But if he looks good against Miguel Flores, he's going to be on the short list. I'm telling you. I think we're laughing because we don't, at least I'm speaking for myself. Before I go to 408, I don't think they'll go that low. Like, I know that's like a parody of the low.
Tank would fight the cashier at Walmart if the money was right. Come on. Let's be honest.
Let's see. 408. What do you think? Is this going to be a Cinderella story, a tragic story? And do you think Tank Davis would fight Mares?
Yes, I do. I do think that Tank Davis would fight Abner Mares. He's got a big name, and especially the Los Angeles audience. Miguel Flores, shout out to him, because you know what? His nickname is El Michoacan. But one of you guys brought up Duel Alguin. That guy's like 15-25. He's the ultimate road dog. Will take a fight on 1 week's notice. He'll fight any Olympian. He's fought Duke Reagan. He'll fight anybody. And that's why Miguel Flores struggled with the guy. It's not because he's 15-25. It's because he's very talented, and he'll fight you on 1 week's notice without a manager. And you can watch him even on Thompson Boxing. I think I just saw him against a highly touted prospect just 2 weeks ago. This guy will fight anybody. But anyways, back to poor Abner Mares. It's going to end much like Paulie Malignaggi, who was still commentating on Showtime and losing right around the same age. You know, you're wondering, scratching your head, when are you going to call it quits, Paulie? But even more, it's just so dangerous that he's going to take these fight on. Yes, Miguel Flores is a light puncher, but I think that the guy can clearly go 12 rounds with him and will probably do some damage. And I really do not want to see him sustain any more damage to those eyes. I'm really disappointed he's taking on this fight. And I think what we're going to see is going to look poor, just like Paulie Malignaggi did. And we will not be seeing Gervonta Tank Davis versus Abner Mares. And I hope he comes out of the fight unscathed. Really, I do. I hope he comes out of this fight uninjured.
Look,
by the way, I'm sorry, D-Styles. I'm going to bounce. I need to bounce. And if you guys can help me out later on after the show and just drop by, give me a subscribe, please. I would really appreciate it. And thanks a lot for having me on the show, D-Style.
Yeah. No problem, brother. Have a good one, man. All right. The Shoe Shine. Every Monday, make sure you subscribe to the Shoe Shine. and boxing here on YouTube. Hey, I need to ask everybody in the panel. I'm sorry, Boxing Wave. You think Tank Davis will go that low? Mayweather Promotions will go that low to make a modest Tank Davis fight?
After he said it, I'm.
Like, think of the backlash. Think of the backlash of that fight.
I love Tank, by the way, but I
do
hate the bullshit he gets himself involved in.
They would do it. They would do it.
I think if Abner Mares knocks out Flores and they set him up with one more fight after that and he knocks him out too, I think they would do it, yo.
They'd probably have it at 140 too.
I think they would do it.
Beeb?
I think so.
They'd probably have it at 140.
You think they do it?
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I think
at 140.
I'm being facetious.
I'm gonna be pissed.
Okay, 135, right?
It's hilarious though. This is where we are.
It's funny because I think he's right. That's why I was laughing so hard.
Hey, Major Key. You don't think they'll go that low, do you?
What was the question?
Do you think Mayweather let's say Mares looks spectacular in the next fight.
Yo,
you think they'll do the Tank fight?
My man, they would eat up that money so fast, bro. They'll eat up that money so fast. Like, you know what I mean? They'll eat that shit up. That's free breakfast at your hotel, man. You know what I'm saying?
D-Style, I'm telling you.
I just think that's like too low.
Opponents like this until the market gets bored with it.
Okay, look, I get it, but like in fairness, Isaac Cruz at this point is not Abner Mares.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even Mario Barrios isn't Abner Mares at this point. Like a no two eyes Mares. It's just too low to me. But that's my opinion. But Lee Groves, do you think they'll make that fight?
Probably not immediately. Abner Mares has got to prove himself to be a viable quality, a viable quantity first. If he looks spectacular, and like the other panelists said, if he looks spectacular in fight 1 and looks spectacular in fight 2 and gets a rating, and plus both fight on Showtime. And Mayweather Promotions loves to keep things in the family. And Abner Mares would qualify as being in the family. Showtime commentator, Showtime fights. It can be done. But it's going to be absolutely, people are just going to crap all over it. It really is, because we all want, Tank Davis is 27 years old. He is in the positive peak of his career. And if he's going to maximize his boxing life, he's got to fight the big boys now and next. And Abner Mares at this point does not qualify as that kind of fighter. I hope it doesn't get made, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is, considering the whole dynamic of Mayweather Promotions and how they move their fighters.
Right. I hope it doesn't happen. I'll just say that. But I mean, we will see. He might not even win that fight. So I mean, Tank might face the dude that beats him. Probably, you never know. Nando Llamas says Abner Mares can't even do a broadcast without his stunner shades on. Come on, at least you won't be commentating, I guess. Damn, it's only shots. Hey, but I'm gonna bounce it back to you, Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have some insight that we don't know or something. So Dubois is suing Don King, allegedly, right, for not paying him. I don't know how that happened, but the Don ain't paying him. What's going on? And could this just be a sign that this is it for Don King? We're not going to hear about him again in the sport of boxing.
I don't know the details of this particular story, but anybody who has studied Don King and his history knows that being sued is par for the course for the guy. So I'm not surprised, especially now that a fighter is suing King for not paying him the promised amount. That's as common as the sun rising in the east or my Pittsburgh Pirates not making the World Series. That's just expected. for the past decade or so, I've characterized Don King as being in sort of a spinal tap existence, a once high profile figure forced by circumstance to play small venues and perform before tiny crowds. I think this is just a continuation of that slide. I think the real beginning of the end for Don King as we knew him occurred in 1996. And this story was told in the documentary called Klitschko. So, shortly after Vladimir won the gold medal in the Atlanta Olympics, King tried to get the brothers, Vladimir and Vitaly, to sign a promotional deal with him. Now, King did his homework. He knew that the brothers were serious people, intellectuals, they loved the arts. And so, in order to show the brothers that he was a cultured guy, he sat down at his piano and he began to play. And at first, they seemed impressed. But then they soon realized that King was sitting at a player piano and he was faking the whole thing. That act of duplicity sealed King's fate with them. And here's why. King had long made his money in the heavyweight division, and the brothers were poised to dominate the heavyweight class for 15 years, if not longer. And they did just that. And the pool of American heavyweights at the same time was shrinking dramatically because a lot of athletes who would otherwise become heavyweight boxers were playing in the NFL and the NBA. And finally, he had no plan of succession. Carl King was ill-equipped to take over the empire, while Bob Arum's son-in-law, Todd Dubois, completed the successful transition, and that's why Top Rank continues to be one of the top promotional companies going. Now, King made one final pitch to get the brothers to fight under his umbrella back in 2008, shortly after Vitaly regained the WBC title from Sam Peter. He offered the brothers $100 million to fight for the undisputed championship, and they turned him down flat. And probably not just because they promised their mother that they'd never fight each other, but probably because they remembered that piano incident. So I'm not surprised that Dubois is suing him. It's par for the course. It's what King does. It's his life. And as his fighters may not get paid, but King's lawyers get paid because they're plenty busy.
Hey, Major Key, what do you make of the lawsuit, brother? And are you? I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody's surprised, but could this be a sign that does Don King not have the money? Is he done? What do you think?
Listen, man, I grew up in New York City, right in the Bronx, man. Like, listen, I recall a lot of times where convicts came back home from prison, from a long time away, and somebody trusted them, right, and they got robbed just the same. It's one of those things where you should have known better than to sign on the dotted line and trust Don King. But because of the reputation and he's got the gift of gab, some people got hustled by him again. And it's unfortunate. Don't get me wrong. I'm not laughing at them, but it's just one of those things where when you understand the game of people like this, like you understand the hustle, then you understand the hustle. Maybe these guys that got duped by him again should have had somebody better in their camp. This is a lesson. This is a learning lesson for people to understand that, hey, this guy's not trustworthy, right? And there's other people in the game that are not trustworthy. And when you look at their track record, someone should be available on your team to understand who is trustworthy and who's not. Or not necessarily because you can't trust anyone really, but at least who has a track record that's a little shady and things like that, and kind of help you out with that. So when it comes down to it, I thought his career was over a long time ago. But apparently some people, put faith in him again. And that's the only reason we hear from him right now, because other people fell for his dupe again, and that's why we're talking about him right now.
Hey, Wave, he hasn't paid Dubois, according to Dubois. Like, he hasn't paid him. He's taking to court, bro. Like, should Dubois just let go of that money? Is he going to get that money?
Nah, he shouldn't let go of the money.
No.
Nah, absolutely not. But I don't think this stops Don King. I think this is part of his story. This is what he's known for. and I think he's going to be involved in the sport until the day he dies. Like, I think he's not going anywhere. Like, this is what Don King does. Historically, he's been involved in so many great fights. There's documentaries on YouTube about him. I watched many of them. Like, this is what he does, and it's not going to stop here. And I wasn't surprised. You know, I saw the article, and I thought about that fight with Trevor Bryan. And I remember how the crowd looked. Like, no one showed up. You know, I mean, for the few people that were there, I mean, how much were they paying for those tickets? It looks like regular bleacher. It looked like a high school gym, you know. So I wasn't surprised. You know, Daniel Dubois has fought in front of bigger crowds. And at this point, Don King is not a major figure in the sport. But I mean, as far as like not paying up and stuff, like, no surprise. And I don't think he's done. I think it's just another day for Don King. And that's all I really got to say, you know?
Damn. Hey, Kellex, I mean, I want your thoughts on it too, but is Dubois going to see that money?
I don't know if he's going to see the money or not. What I'll tell you is when Warren put up $2.5 million for his purse bid and Don King outbids him 3.1, and then he puts it in South Florida in a small, like it literally was a small gymnasium. I remember the Thursday before the fight, we were on here with True School Sports, who was going to that fight. He lives in South Florida covering the fight. And this fight was on a small pay-per-view in a small gymnasium, and he had a $3.1 million purse bid for the fight. So how do you make that work? How do you fit that square peg in a circle hole? So the money's probably funny. I'm not exactly sure. I'm seeing differing. It's sort of like a confusing story to follow too if you get into the details, because there's a discrepancy as to what exactly he's suing for, the amount of it. So I can't get into details exactly what's happening here, and if he's going to see the money, because I don't even know what money he's suing for. Like, how much is he suing for? But apparently he hasn't seen any of it. That's not good. That's no bueno.
Man. Well,
the sad part is there's no sanctioning from Russia, so we know he should be having his money.
Yeah, that's true, right? Hey, Beeb, I mean, none of us know, right? But do you think Dubois will ever see that money?
Yeah, I think he will. If he goes to court, sure. Don King's worth $150 million. I mean, he's got the money. It's not like he's broke or anything like that. The pay-per-view was only $30. I bought it. It was worth it because
you were one of the 4 buys.
Because the fight went under like I predicted. So my bet covered my pay-per-view cost.
Barely.
So I think Don King reminds me of a person who is not poor but just shoplifts because they just have a problem with it. Like, they just like to have that thrill of being able to just go into a store and take something. I think Don King knows he can pay these people, but you can't take that hustler out of him. Like,
he's a swindler.
I think Major Key kind of alluded to that when he was talking about the topic.
You calling him Winona Ryder? He's a shoplifter, famous shoplifter.
Well, you know, I think he's got some tendencies, but you know, I just think that he does these things because he's all about the hustle, and if he can get over on anybody, he'll get over on him, right? So that's what I think it is. I just think you can't take that hustler out of him. That he'll be a hustler for the rest of his life, man.
Man, that's crazy.
That's a huge purse bid to put up for a fight you're going to put in a gymnasium in South Florida, which it made no sense being.
Oh, they had to have lost money on that. They had to have.
That's what you call a pyramid scheme, man. You know what I'm saying? As long as you got the money in your bank account, it's all good.
And sometimes when they have these pay-per-views real cheap, they're like, okay, we'll just make the price $30. And they think everyone's going to buy it because it's only $30. But did anyone on this panel buy that pay-per-view except for me?
Nope.
Guilty.
I mean, that fight happened. I read about it.
I bought Roy Jones versus Bobby Gunn, man. So, I mean,
goodness gracious.
I'm a sick individual.
I'm a Roy Jones fanboy. Not even I bought that one.
I would have bought it for you, Alex.
Man, what's the matter with you? We need an intervention over here, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm sick.
That's
There's
what we
something
need.
wrong with me.
Yeah, we need an intervention for sure. You know what I mean? Hey, let's go ahead and talk about these weekend's fights. I think these are not they're not like high profile fights, but I think not like the Vergil Ortiz fight. I think they're a little more interesting. Let's go ahead and start with Blair the Flair Cobbs. He's going to be facing Maurice Hooker, who Ligros told us Mannix was talking about. He might not even make weight. We'll see tomorrow the drama for that. But the fight itself, Calix, start with you. Who do you favor to win? How and why?
Well, I hope Maurice Hooker's on weight. I hope if he's on weight and everything's good, I would pick him to win the fight. More solid foundation, better amateur pedigree. Seems like a more durable fighter with less question marks, right? So the question mark is he's coming off a long layoff where he had a really bad injury against Vergil Ortiz, really bad injury. So that's the big question mark in this fight. But more experience. He's been in there with better guys. He can bang. He doesn't have a great KO percentage, but he can hit. And Blair the Flair Cobbs, I enjoy his WWE type of self-promotion that he brings in because you have to have that now. Promoters are lazier than ever. Social media is all over the place. You have all kind of places where you can promote yourself, and he's doing that. He's been doing a good job of that, of talking himself up the ranks into fights like this in his last fight. But what happened his last fight? Looked terrible. He looked terrible. He looked like he had no chin. He just looked like a mess, amateurish. So I sort of expect the same thing here. As long as Hooker is right, as long as that injury's not that bad that he got against Vergil Ortiz, if he comes in on weight, but those are all question marks, right? Will he come in fresh? Will the long layoff ring rust hurt him? Because Blair the Flair, you got to give him that. He's fresher. But all things even, Maurice Hooker is the favorite for a reason, and I like him in this fight. I actually think he stops Blair the Flair. I think he's going to stop him.
More or less, what round?
Middle rounds.
Middle rounds, okay. All right, fair enough. Hey, Boxing Wave, how do you see this fight? Who wins and why?
Yeah, I agree with Calix. Blair. I thought it was. I remember when I heard he was fighting Alexis Rocha. I thought that was a huge mistake. Like, bro, that's a real fighter. That's like Jake Paul just randomly fighting a ranked top contender. Like, it's not gonna happen. So when I heard about that, I know Blair is not as popular, but I look at him as the same thing. Like, okay, I know you're boxing, but you're still learning the game, and you just still trying to get in the mix. So to go, I like the fact that he is at least trying to fight real fighter though. Like, he's going up to real fighters and calling them out, but at the same time, it's a bad thing too, because you're not really developed yet as a boxer. I do think Blair does have some athleticism, so that's the only reason why he's able to even match up at all against any of these guys. But fighting Rocha and then now fighting Hooker, who's a former champion, has some pop, has long arms, know how to use range and stuff like that, and can fight. Like, he can bang. That fight with Vergil Ortiz was a good fight for the amount that it lasted. People don't remember that. Like, I know he got hurt, but that was a good fight. That was the first time we saw Ortiz getting hit that much. So this is not no slouch. And if Hooker is healthy and he's on his A game, hopefully the weight is right. I expect Hooker to stop him at some point too. I don't think it's going to be that early, but I think he's going to get it done.
Blair will lose his Flair around round 9. I like that. Hey, Tim Gallegos he says Blair the Flair Cobbs has been treated very badly by Golden Boy Promotions. Shame on Golden Boy, he says. Hey, thank you for the support, brother. Just to add to Wave's point really quick, I think he was doing good against Ramirez before the knockout. People forgot about that because he got knocked out. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. Joe, who do you got in this fight? And how do they win and why?
Yeah, Maurice Hooker is a very solid fighter, very skilled fighter. both guys are tall and long, but Maurice Hooker knows how to use his height and reach. Blair the Flair is more of an ambush guy. He throws those wide loop-in shots. Maurice Hooker throws those straight shots that are pretty pinpoint accurate, right? He's got a great jab. He's got good defense himself. I think that Maurice Hooker will win this fight. I think he'll probably stop him late, and it'll be fun while it lasts. But I got to give Blair credit for taking another tough fight back to back. I mean, he's probably saying to himself, I can either do this or I can't, and this is probably the litmus test for him. If he loses this fight, it could be over for him, right? He may decide to hang him up after that. If it's another bad loss, two bad losses in a row. He wanted to fight at this high level, and if he can't fight at this high level, maybe he'll decide to hang him up. But I like Maurice Hooker in this fight as well.
All right. Do you see it the same, Major Key? And if so, do you see a stoppage, decision? How do you see this fight going?
I think it's what Beeb said, but also for Maurice Hooker, it could be, the last one for him as far as on a big stage. And here's the reason. He's what was his record? 27 and I don't know, 2, I think. With he lost against Ramirez and against and against Vergil Ortiz. But here's the kicker here. Here's the kicker. It depends on what Maurice Hooker.
27-2. Yeah.
Okay, so. Here's the kicker. It depends what Maurice Hooker comes into the fight, because he hasn't fought in about a year and a half. That's a big thing to remember there. He hasn't fought in a year and a half, right? And Blair Cobbs, he got knocked out in his last fight. Yeah, he's a wild puncher. I really didn't have a lot of belief, but he has had some impressive wins that kind of shocked me. I'm like, wow, this freaking crazy puncher that loops like this has actually knocked out some good competition. But Maurice Hooker also has 3 draws that we're not talking about against lesser competition, right? 3 draws against lesser competition. So it makes me question what Maurice Hooker shows up to this 147-pound division against someone who's been fighting at that 147-pound division, fighting, maybe not A-class fighters and knocking them out, but maybe C-class fighters, whatever, B-, whatever. But he's been actually fighting some good competition in a sense of trying to build his career, right? Not notable stuff that's going to put him in the Hall of Fame or nothing like that. I'm not saying nothing like that, but I'm just saying, just people that if you're building somebody with a 15-0 record right now, he's 15-1-1. But if you're trying to build somebody with a 15-1 or 0-1 record, they're trying to step him up gradually. And so my thing is, he's Maurice Hooker is the sharper puncher, the better boxer. It depends on what Maurice Hooker shows up that night, because if the right Maurice Hooker doesn't show up, we may have an upset on our hands with a knockout by Blair Cobb, straight up, especially when he's trying to bring his name back into relevance. Just saying.
Woo! You see, put a respect on Blair the Flair. You know what I mean? But hey, Lee Groves, do you agree with that? Do you think there's a possibility of an upset here? Do you think everyone's a little too confident that Mo Hooker has this?
Well, the fact that Chris Mannix is reporting that Hooker may not make the weight, and that the plan, according to him, the plan is to wait and see how things go on Friday to see whether the fight will go on or not. So there's a little bit of a variable, a little bit of a plot twist being thrown in there that could provide a little extra layer of intrigue on this one. And as far as the injury that Hooker suffered, it was a broken right hand. He broke it on the final punch that he landed in the Vergil Ortiz fight. It was a TKO because of the injury, not necessarily because Ortiz was overwhelming him. It was a competitive fight. There were some layers to Vergil Ortiz that were exposed by Hooker's skill level, and and the very fact that Blair Cobbs is a southpaw, it places more importance on that surgically repaired right hand, because Hooker's got a really good jab as far as frequency, accuracy. But because he's fighting a southpaw, southpaws tend to neutralize good jabs. But it also emphasizes right hands down the middle. So I think that we're going to get a good barometer as to the state of Maurice Hooker's right hand. How confident is he as far as throwing it and landing it with full strength? I think he said the other day that he felt good about the state of his right hand. But it's one thing to say it; it's another thing to do it in the heat of competition. And as far as Cobbs is concerned, the Rocha loss was pretty humbling. And at least so far as I've heard, he's been less Flair and more Blair. You know, he's been quieter. He's been a little bit less bombastic. He's described his training camp as very humbling. And he says he has a new mindset, a more serious mindset. And it's probably just as well, because I think he knows what he's going to face when he fights Hooker. He's fighting a guy who's 5'11", just like he is, but Hooker has an 80-inch wingspan. That's 7 inches longer than Cobbs's is. And because of that, Hooker is able to dictate distance to Cobbs. Cobbs is usually the one who's used to dictating distance to his opponents. So that's going to be a role reversal for him. And because of this, Cobbs is going to have little choice but to come at Hooker if he wants to score points, and that's not his game. I think that because of this, if they do fight, and if Hooker's in good shape as far as the rehydration process, I think Hooker's style was all wrong for Blair Cobbs, and I see him using the first few rounds to get the rust off. But once he gets his distance and once he gets his rhythm, once he starts landing the right hands against Blair Cobbs, I think he's gonna find the target. He's smart. He's accurate. I think he'll score the TKO victory late.
All right. Look, I do think Mo Hooker should win this fight. We'll see, of course, but he should win this fight for sure. I'm pretty confident he'll win this fight, but this next fight, a little under the radar. A lot of fans are not talking about it. My pick might surprise some people, but it is Conlan against Marriaga. I think this is a very interesting fight. I just do. We're going to bounce the other way. Back to you, Lee. This will be the final topic of the night. How do you have it, Lee?
So Conlan is coming off what may well be 2022's fight of the year against Lee Wood. And the big question here is, how well has he recovered from the KO loss? The last time we saw him, he was falling out of the ring and being escorted out of the arena, probably on a stretcher. We had no idea whether he was okay or not. And it was the kind of fight where you could say that he left a piece of himself in that ring in Nottingham. Now, Conlan said that what he learned from that fight was that he was not just trying to win the fight. He was trying to win the fight huge. And in the process, he exhausted himself. It was just like when Sugar Ray Robinson fought Joey Maxim for the light heavyweight title back in 1952. It's 104 degrees outside. And Ray Robinson not only wanted to become a 3-division world champion, which was a very rare thing back then, he wanted to put on a show. And when he put on a show for the first 10 rounds, but then in round 11, the heat started to get to him. And it got to him so badly in rounds 12 and 13 that he could not come out for the 14th round. And that was the only TKO loss of Sugar Ray Robinson's career. And that's because he didn't want to win the fight. He wanted to win it spectacularly. And that's what happened to Michael Conlan. Now, Conlan is going to be facing a volume-punching aggressor in Marriaga, who is coming off his own loss against Eduardo Ramirez, and he's lost 2 of his last 3 fights. I think that's one of the reasons why he was chosen. Marriaga is the kind of aggressive fighter that Conlan can look good against because he's a boxer, he's a counterpuncher, he scores from the outside, and he mostly fights out of the southpaw stance these days. But Marriaga is also the kind of fighter who can expose any weaknesses in Conlan's game. So that's why it's very intriguing to me. But I think because the fight is being held in Conlan's hometown of Belfast, I think the atmosphere is going to lift his spirits. It's going to lift his game. I like Conlan to win, and he'll probably do it on points because the only guy to stop Marriaga was Lomachenko, who has speed, but he also had power, as opposed to just speed, smarts, intelligence for Conlan. So I like Conlan on points in this one.
Got Conlan on points. Let me say this. I think Marriaga's going to beat Conlan. I think he's going to try to, sure, the crowd's there. He's going to try to impress that crowd. But whether he tries to fight smart, whether he tries to impress the crowd, I think Marriaga is going to bring that pressure, bust, pipes. And I don't know, man. Like, Marriaga's not the dude you want to fight if you're coming off a knockout loss like that. I see Marriaga give, Oscar Valdez all types of problems. You know what I mean? So I just think he's going to win this one. I think he's going to stop Conlan late. It's going to be a sad day in Belfast. Okay? I'm sorry. It is what it is. It's a sad weekend. Like, Conor McGregor announced his retirement from MMA. Like, Conlan's gonna lose. Like, it is what it is. I'm not trying to start any problems. Okay, I love my Irish people, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? But Marriaga all day, late stoppage, night. He won't get knocked out of the ring this time though. He'll go to sleep on the mat. And it is what it is. Major Key, how do you see this fight?
Brother, I'm glad you said it first, man, because I see it's an upset. It's a cherry pick gone wrong in the sense that they're trying to have a confidence booster for Conlan. But at the end of the day, Loma's the only one that really KO'd him. Besides that, who else? We all know the names that beat him. Nicholas Walters, Eduardo Ramirez, Joet Gonzalez, and
Oscar Valdez.
Yeah, Oscar Valdez, of course. We all know those names as tough competition, right? Whereas, you know what I'm saying, this dude Conlan just got knocked out by Lee Woods earlier this year, right? So I think at the end of the day, the pressure, right, because Conlan's not going to be able to keep Marriaga off of him. Because he's not really a knockout artist. He's not going to be able to keep Marriaga off of him. And so I think that this is going to be somewhat of a, they're going to try to showcase Conlan as a great boxer and all that, but the power is not going to be able to keep Marriaga off, and I see it as an upset as well. That's actually what I wrote down as my assessment for this. But what round? That's going to be interesting because they are fighting over there. So Marriaga is going to have to catch him in the mid rounds at least to give himself a chance, because if it goes to scorecards, we already know that it's not going to go in his favor. So if Marriaga is going to do his thing, he's going to have to start letting it loose like 4th, 5th round so they can set it up by the 6th or 7th round.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's 2-1 in the panel so far. Really quick, I believe I forgot to. So I just want to give Tim Gallegos a shout out. I appreciate it, brother. He says, I hope Blair gets a robbery decision or gets lucky kill victory. Why do you want him to get a robbery decision? What's going on over here? But shout out to you either way. Thanks for the support. Joe Abib, it's 2-1 right now, but who you got? Conlan, Marriaga. Talk to us.
Marriaga is a solid fighter, as Lee said. He's a pressure fighter. He can punch a little bit, but when he does step up, he comes up a little bit short. And I think Michael Conlan's got very good boxing skills. I thought he was doing very well against Lee Wood before he got stopped. I just think that Conlan's going to be a little too quick for Marriaga, and I just think that Conlan is going to be a counterpuncher in this fight. I think he'll tie Marriaga up on the inside. I think he'll be too slick for Marriaga, and I see Conlan winning a unanimous decision in this fight. It'll be a hard-fought one because Marriaga does bring it, but I just think that the foot speed, the hand speed, and the counterpunching ability of Conlan and just the overall skill set will be too much for Marriaga. So I'm going to go with Conlan by decision.
To win a panel. You're the tiebreaker here, Boxing Wave. Talk to us. What do you got, brother?
Yeah, I really had to think about this one. Because the thing about Marriaga, very experienced, never really got stopped. I think it was, I can't remember the Lomachenko fight, but I remember it was one of those stoppages of, I don't know if he like quit or he was just getting beat up too much. Like it wasn't like he got knocked out or anything, right?
It was during the Lomachenko.
Yeah, he was doing that with everybody at that point. He was just making everybody quick. But the thing is, Marriaga, you know, just like you guys said, every time it was time to step up, he lost. You know, every single time he stepped up. Oh, I mean, he even had a high KO ratio. I mean, they was building him up leading up to the Nicholas Walters fight back in the day. Like, this is the guy that beat him in the amateurs. You know, he had a great KO ratio at the time. But ever since that loss and every other loss, every time he stepped up, he kept losing. But then you have Mike Conlan. It's just like, how is he going to take that loss? He was doing so well against Lee Wood early in the fight. He was doing really, really good. I actually thought he was going to get a stoppage. He was doing that well early on. And then as the rounds progressed, the Wood figured him out, was doing better. Still didn't think he was going to get knocked out, but he got knocked out. My prediction for the fight, I think Conlan is going to find a way to grind it through. And I think I'm predicting a scare later in the fight. I think Conlan is either going to get knocked out or get rocked heavy, and he's going to have to tie up for some time. And I think he's going to find a way to grind through it and pull through and win a decision. He's definitely not stopping Marriaga, but I think he's going to find a way to get through this fight.
All right. Conlan takes the lead. Calix, how do you see it?
There are certain things you don't do in life, D-Style. You don't put your hand on a stove. You don't date a girl who's coming off of multiple bad relationships and they're all her fault. And you don't face a Colombian puncher coming off of a knockout loss. You don't do it. And when I saw Marriaga was the guy for the comeback fight, I said, oh, bold move. Bold move. I understand why they're doing it. He's trending down, right? Lost 2 out of his last 3. But look at the losses he's had. And he's 35 years old. You got to remember that. So his reflexes have slowed down. He can't find his punches the way he has in the past. But the losses, Walters, Lomachenko, Valdez, Joet, and then Eduardo Ramirez, I believe, is about to fight Isaac Cruz at 135. That's his last loss. So he's got quality losses. Yes, every time he stepped up. But in my opinion, Mick Conlan's none of those guys. I've never been as high on Mick Conlan as everybody else. I just haven't. I've never thought he was going to be a top guy at 126. I don't even think he's a top 10 guy at 126. I don't think he's going to be there. 8 KOs in 17 fights. So let's take 2 things off the table. Mick Conlan's not going to win by knockout. Marriaga's not going to win by decision over there. I don't think he can outbox Mick Conlan over 12 rounds. The big question here is, Mick Conlan's going to be outboxing Marriaga, but can he stay away from the big punch that's going to bring back the flashbacks of him getting knocked out the ring against Lee Wood? That's the question here. That's the question. Can he get to decision? Can he get to the finish line? That's the big question here. And you got to remember, he's a minus 1,200 favorite. He's a huge favorite against Marriaga. So Vegas still sees, yeah, he's a huge favorite here against Marriaga. So what I'm looking at, real quick, as far as betting odds, the prop bets have not come out yet for some reason. Marriaga's plus 750 underdog. If Marriaga by knockout is anywhere close to plus 1,000, I'm jumping on it just as a flyer. I'm throwing down a little bit of money on that because that's the second most likely scenario in this fight.
Yeah, that's the only way he could win, by the way, by knockout. So
right. But I just feel like Conlan's going to find a way through it. It's gonna be ugly in spots. You put a gun to my head. I want to pull the up.
He sounded like he was gonna pick Marriaga, and then he just flips on me.
I can't.
You tricked us. You tricked us, Calix. Come on, Calix.
There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason they picked Marriaga, and maybe they're like
cherry pick, man, gone wrong.
Possibly, like.
Age 35 and lost 2 of the last 3, and he fails when he steps up. That's probably why.
Yeah.
Hey, look, man.
But
If he's
Conlan's so
cherry
talented to me,
picking,
like, I've
cherry
never been high
picking,
on
what
Conlan.
popped that cherry already?
And
This dude
Colombian
is gonna go
punches.
out
Remember
again.
Brady Prescott going over there and fighting Amir Khan and knocking him out in like 18 seconds? Like, it could go wrong against 26 knockouts and 30 wins. I don't know. I'm struggling. Like, honestly, man, transparent, I'm really struggling with this. But I will be betting, putting a little bit of money on Marriaga by knockout.
But officially, you have Conlan, right?
Yeah.
You want to pick Marriaga, but fine. The panel has a 4-2. It is what it is. But
I
at the
may
end
be
of the
changing
day,
my pick, by the way, but I don't.
yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight. This is the most competitive fight of the weekend, on paper, in my opinion. I think the Vergil Ortiz fight and the Mohoker fight, we all kind of know who's going to win. Anything can happen in boxing, obviously, but this is the more intriguing fight. I think we can all agree. And I think the panel discussion shows it. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Major Key Boxing here on YouTube. I want to thank you for coming on, brother, giving us your time. I want to thank Boxing Wave. Make sure you subscribe to Boxing Wave as well. Joe Habib from Ringside Reporter. Calix Boxing 2.0 catches every Tuesday and Wednesday. And, of course, Lee Groves. Follow him. What's your Twitter handle, Lee, real quick?
Twitter handle is @Lee Groves Boxing, and you can see me with James Smitty Smith on In This Corner, the podcast on Fight Plus.
Here we go. We got to get Smitty on the roundtable too. Maybe one day. All right. But with that said, this is D-Style Boxing. Keep it boxing, guys. That's the show. Peace out.